Welcome back to the Unikaksha. So we are discussing about the topic of introduction to SQL. We have covered few of the topics and we are currently working on the topic of constraints. We have already completed not null, unique, primary and foreign key constraint, and today we are going to discuss about the check constraint and default constraint. So basically check constraint ensures that while inserting the values should be added as per the given condition. So for example, you are having a condition that when user will enter the value for age, it should be greater than 18. So whenever the value will be added, it will check if the value of age is greater than 18 or not. If it is, then it will allow that value to be entered in the table, else it will generate an error. That's basically what we mean by the check constraint. And default is like, for example, for location, the value is fixed as Delhi. And you don't want user to, every time write the value of location as Delhi, because you know that most of the people belongs to the Delhi in a certain organization. So you can by default keep the value of location as Delhi. Suppose I am from Mumbai and I don't want to use the default location as Delhi, then I have the provision to change the value of the location to Mumbai. But otherwise, if I don't specify anything, by default, my value of location will be taken as Delhi only. So this is basically how check and default works. So let us simply go to the SQL window and try to implement this practically so that we'll get an idea that how these things actually work in reality. So let's go back to our SQL window. I will quickly open the SQL window for you. So we are using MySQL command line. It is asking for a password. Okay. We are using Unikaksha_1. Here we'll try to create a table. So we'll say that create table P1. Any name. You can give T1, table 1, try table 2, whatever name you want to give. You can assign that name. So I want to create PID as integer here. Then I'll have P name as varchar 20. And I want P_age, which is nothing but integer. Fine. So what we want to implement on this, so we want to check that the value of age should be added only under the circumstances when the value of age is greater than 80. So if you want to implement this in SQL, then you have to use this check constraint. So we'll say here, check the value of age is greater than 18. So this is how you can add the check constraint. I just hope this part is clear. So we are creating person ID as a variable. Then we are creating a person name as a variable to store the value of name of a person. Then we are having P_age as nothing but, the value that will store the value of age, but we are providing some constraint on it that if the value of age is greater than 18, then and then only the value must be added inside the table. So this is basically how it will be created. So we are creating table P1, PID is an integer, name is a varchar. We are passing the value of age as an integer and we are passing one more constraint for the age that you have to check if the value of age is greater than 80. Fine. So in this case, let us just insert the value. So I am inserting into table P1. The values, the first value is ID. I inserted as 101. Name, I am inserting some random name. And I'll be inserting the value of age. Okay, let us add one more value. I'm giving the value of ID as 102. Let us add the value here for ID 103. Person we are changing to suppose say Robin. And I'll add the value as 3 here. As soon as I add the value 3, it is generating an error saying that the constraint is violated because you are expecting the value of age to be always greater than 18. So in this case, if you perform select star from P1, you'll get the two values which are having the value of age greater than 18. So this is basically how the check constraint works. So you can implement the check constraint on any particular condition that is given in the problem that we want or we don't expect the value to be having greater than 5,000 in a salary or greater than 60,000 in a salary. So if you are having any such kind of the constraint, then too you can implement this kind of mechanism. So I just hope this is clear. After that, we are going to check something called as the default. So again, we are creating one table called as a person, wherein we are having ID as integer, not null. Last name, we are having varchar. Again, we don't want it to be a null. First name, we are keeping again as a varchar. Age integer, and we are writing city. By default, the value of city, we are keeping it as a Mumbai. So let us just try to check how it behaves. So here I'm writing something like this. Insert into persons. I'll write it again. Insert into persons piece capital. Values. I'm specifying first value as 101. Last name I'm specifying anything, suppose Mehta. Then we have to specify the first name. We are specifying, suppose say the name as Shivani. Age we are writing as this. And city, suppose I want to specify here as Delhi. So I have specified the city as Delhi. In next case, I will be having the value as 102 here. For the ID, I would like to keep the value of last name as say Singh. Here I would like to change the name to Shivam. Age, suppose I am making as 32. I'll give the value of city as Pune. Semicolon. I'll create one more value wherein I would like to keep the value of ID as 103. Here I would like to change the name, surname to suppose say some Menon. Here I would change the value of name to some Satya. And I will not specify location over here. Now in this case, I just entered the value 103, then the value for the surname, then the value I inserted for the first name, and I inserted the integer value for the name. I haven't inserted the value for the city if you have seen this carefully. So here if you have carefully noticed, I deliberately give this value as blank. I didn't specify anything. But blank is again considered as a character only, and that's why you'll find out, though I haven't inserted anything, it hasn't considered it as a null value, and that's why it is simply adding the blank as a value for city. Next time here what I did, I created or I inserted the values into this table, but this time I am inserting into only specific columns, that is ID, last name, first name and age, with the values respectively say 103, the name, surname and only the value of the age. I'm not specifying the value of location or city over here. So if you carefully notice, when I'm performing select star from the persons, that time it is automatically adding the value as Mumbai, though I haven't specified. It will take the default value because you have specified the default value as Mumbai. This is basically how the default type of constraint works. So if you are not specifying any value that is defined as a default value will take the place at that position. So I just hope all the constraints are clear to you. We implemented 6 constraints and you'll find out every 2 constraint explained in a different video. So if you have missed any constraint, please look to the another videos related to the constraints so that you can explore the other constraints as well. Thank you so much for patiently listening to the session. See you soon in the next video. Bye-bye.